beings that resembled small trolls. The legends were wrong. They were not unipeds, but they had dark skin and were fond of red fabrics. The Greenlanders swapped all the red cloths they had for animal skins. They traded. But one day, a bellowing bull belonging to Karlsefni escaped its enclosure and frightened the Skrellings. So they attacked the camp, and Karlsefni's men fled in fear, until Freydis furiously berated them for their cowardice, picked up a sword, and prepared to defend herself from the enemy. She tore her shift open and beat the flat of the blade against her breasts while insulting the Skrellings. Seeing this, her countrymen were ashamed and turned back to help her, while the Skrellings, terrified by the vision of this voluptuous, ferocious woman, ran away. Freydis was pregnant and bad-tempered. She got into an argument with two brothers. She wanted to take their boat because it was bigger than hers, so she ordered her husband, Thorvard, to kill them and their men, which he did. Freydis killed their women with an axe. Winter was over, and summer was coming. But Freydis didn't dare return to Greenland because she feared the wrath of her brother Leif once he found out that she was guilty of murder. However, she felt that the others distrusted her and that she was no longer welcome in the camp. She fitted out the brothers' boat, then set sail with her husband, a few men, some cattle, and horses. Those remaining in the Vinland colony were relieved when she left. But before going out to sea, she said to them, "I, Freydis Eriksdottir, swear that I will return." They headed south. 3. The South. The wide-sided Knar sailed along the coast. There was a storm, and Freydis prayed to Thor. The ship almost crashed into some rocks. The terrified animals thrashed so violently that the men were on the verge of throwing them overboard for fear that they would capsize the ship. But in the end, the gods' anger abated. The journey lasted longer than they had expected. The crew could find nowhere to land because the cliffs were too high, and when they did come across a beach, it was defended by Skrellings with bows who shot stones at them. It was too late to sail east, and Freydis did not want to turn back. The men survived on the fish they caught, but some of them drank seawater and became ill. One day, when there was no north wind to help swell their sails, Freydis gave birth in the aisle between the benches of oarsmen. The baby boy, whom she wanted to name Eric after his grandfather, was stillborn, and she gave him to the sea. At last, they discovered a cove where they could anchor. 4. The Land of the Dawn. The water there was so shallow that they were able to walk to the beach. They had brought all kinds of animals with them. The land was beautiful. They immediately began to explore. There were meadows and airy forests. There was an abundance of game. The rivers were full of fish. Freydis and her companions decided to set up camp near the coast, sheltered from the wind. They did not lack provisions, so they thought they would stay there for the winter. They guessed that the winters there would be milder, or at least shorter than in their homeland. The youngest among them had been born in Greenland, while the others were from Iceland or Norway, like Freydis's father. But one day, exploring more deeply inland, they discovered a cultivated field. There were neat rows of crops, like ears of yellow barley, but with crunchy, juicy grains. So it was that they knew they were not alone. They too wanted to grow this crunchy barley, but didn't know how. A few weeks later, some Skrellings appeared at the top of the hill overlooking their camp. They were tall and well-built, with oily skin. Their faces were painted with long black lines, which frightened the Greenlanders, but this time nobody dared run away in case Freydis accused them of cowardice. Besides, the Skrellings seemed more curious than hostile. One of the Greenlanders wanted to give them a small axe as a peace offering, but Freydis